right, everyone. Welcome to another session of Dissertation Toolbox. In this session, we'll be focusing on how to write better introductions. Some writers even suggest writing the introduction after you have drafted a good amount of the body of your paper. And I happen to agree with this advice. I think this is especially true if you have collected data. The purpose of the introduction is to introduce the topic of your paper to your reader. And in order to do that, you already need to know what you are discussing in the body of your paper. So I suggest that the best way to write your introduction is to first write a rough outline of the kinds of information you think you will include, then take care of the body of your paper, and then go back and write the introduction more fully. You know, writing isn't something that happens as a logical sequence of events. It's more like a puzzle. You have an idea of the whole and it emerges over time, but you work on one section for a while and then leave it a little half done, and then you realize you have information you can include in another part of your paper. And so it happens more piecemeal than in a logical sequence. So the length of your introduction is going to vary depending on the type of research paper you are writing. If it's an article for a publication in a scholarly journal, it may just be 1 or 2 paragraphs. However, if it's your dissertation, it will probably be an entire chapter. So the kinds of information will vary depending on the genre you are writing. However, there is some basic information that will be included in all introductions. So first, an introduction should announce your topic. Also, it should provide context and rationale for your work. And last, you should state your research questions, hypothesis, and or thesis statement. Okay. Also, note that a well-written introduction should set the tone for the paper, the mood or stance you're taking on this particular subject. And in the social sciences, you'll want your tone to sound as objective as possible. At the same time, you want to catch the reader's interests and communicate your hypothesis and thesis statement with interest and show that, this is a topic worth reading about. All right, announce your research topic. That is the first thing you want to do in your introduction. So you'll want to start your introduction with a few sentences announcing your topic and give an indication of the kind of research questions you'll be asking. Additionally, the first few sentences should indicate a broader problem, which you'll then focus on more closely in the rest of your introduction and then eventually lead to your specific research questions. In other words, you want to start with the broadest material and then zoom in on the specifics after that. For example, the sentence, "Throughout the 20th century, our views of life on other planets have drastically changed." This would be a great first sentence for an introduction. It introduces the topic, but in the broadest of terms. So it provides us with an indication of the content of the essay and encourages us to read on. But it's set the stage for the theme that we'll be exploring, our views on life on other planets. Additionally, when you write a research paper for publication, you'll be required to submit it along with a series of keywords, which give a quick indication of the areas of research you'll be addressing. You may also have certain keywords in your title, which you want to establish and emphasize in your introduction. For example, if you were writing a paper about the behavior of mice when exposed to a particle substance, you'd include the word mice and a scientific name of the relevant compound in the first sentence. So it's a good idea to refer to all of these keywords you'll be using in the introduction and define them in the context that they will be used in this paper. Okay, after introducing your topic, you'll want to establish the context for your paper. In other words, you'll want to discuss the history and background information the reader needs to know in order to understand where you're coming from. And to do this, you'll want to include first a brief literature review, reviewing information that's already published in the field. And this is an important element of your paper because it needs to demonstrate that you have a strong knowledge and understanding of the debates and scholarship in your area. You should aim to indicate that you have a broad knowledge, but that you are engaging in the specific debates most relevant to your research. Also, use the literature to focus on your contributions. So use the existing literature to focus on your own work and its position relevant to the broader scholarship. Also, use existing research to identify gaps in the existing scholarship and explain how you are addressing it and moving understanding forward. You're writing your research paper in order to build on information that is already there, but as well as to identify missing information that is necessary in order to get a more full understanding of your topic. So again, use the literature to your advantage to show how your contribution will expand on existing knowledge. Okay, once you've framed your work with a broader context, you can elaborate more fully on the rationale of your research and its particular strength and importance. So the rationale should clearly and concisely indicate the value of your paper and its contribution to the field. This means that you should try to go beyond saying what you are filling a gap in and emphasize the positive contribution of your work. Okay? So you want to stress what is novel in your research and the significance of your new approach. But don't give too much detail in the introduction. Just hint at the positive contribution that your work will make to your field of study. Once you've indicated where your research sits in the field and the general rationale for your paper, you can specify the research questions your research paper addresses. So the literature review and rationale frame your research and introduce your research questions. You don't want your research questions to come as a surprise for your reader. Your reader should expect by now, based on the literature review and the introduction and the rationale, what kinds of research questions you'll probably be addressing. And after you specify your research questions, you need to clearly and concisely articulate your hypothesis or thesis statement. Lastly, in some cases, the final part of an introduction will be a few lines that provide an overview of the structure of the body of the paper. So this could simply be an outline of how you've organized the paper and how it's broken down into sections, chapter by chapter. And some scientific papers have a fairly rigid structure on how this works, so you'll want to be sure to ask your specific instructor or inquire what the standards are for a journal you're hoping to be published in. All right, and again, so just to reiterate, the three most important components of an introduction are announcing your topic, providing context and rationale for your work, stating your research questions and hypothesis, and possibly outlining the structure of the remainder of your paper. That is the general order that the information in the introduction is organized in. But this is a very general idea of how to write these introductions. You'll want to consult your advisor, your instructor, or the journal you're trying to publish for in order to make sure you meet their standards and have all of the required information you need. Okay, the end.
Yay!
Next, you
Blah, 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 blah. Take two.
okay.